Hey, what's happening? It's Mark T here with the founder of the No Backboard Basketball League, inventor of Basketball to Remix, with another episode of the No Backboard Basketball League Social Club. And I'm joined today with my man, DJ Muztard. DJ Muztard, what's good, man? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. We've got a good topic
man.
today.
Absolutely. You're looking good, looking healthy. It's good to see you sharing with me. Your household overcame a little bug was running around, and you guys are feeling good now. That's good to see.
Yeah,
And
we're good.
you good? That's good to hear. Yeah, man. I think we do have some interesting topics today. I'm excited to jump into it. And as I can't say as always because we're just getting started, but I want to be able to say as always, we're going to open up with a little basketball 55. Hey, and before we transition into that, man, your thoughts about Harry Bucky Lou after having a week to kind of think about our last conversation. I know for me personally, what really resonated with me was this idea that there's actually an individual that really encompasses the spirit of what we're efforting to do with the No Backboard Basketball League. Here's a guy who is the first professional Black basketball player in the United States who played professional basketball in baskets with no backboards, and then went on to become an entrepreneur and a barnstormer with his own basketball teams, participating in that whole economy back then. That really resonated with me. And quite frankly, I think that's the first time I read that professional basketball at some point was played without a backboard.
So I do have an interesting question based off what you just said. So with him being the first Black professional basketball player in that league, so in his career, did he ever play against another Black person in those leagues?
That's a good question. I do not know. My bet is over the 20 years that he was involved in basketball, absolutely.
Right, yeah, that would make sense, yeah.
Yeah, because as we jump into our segment today at Basketball 55, and we take a look at what we call the Black basketball timeline, we're going to see there's a whole era where professional basketball was barnstorming, and it was individuals who or organizations that organized their own teams, and then teams went out on the road playing in hundreds, if not thousands, of games a year. So I'm excited about that. So let's jump into this next episode of Basketball 55. The No Backboard Basketball League Social Club is celebrating Basketball 55. Again, as the NBA celebrates 75 years of being in business, we are celebrating the first 55 years of basketball prior to the NBA, the era that laid the foundation for the NBA to be what it is today. This quote we have here, DJ, reads, as we see, African Americans have leveraged the game of basketball to enhance lives, solidify communities, participate in the free market system for over 100 years. The most identifiable basketball franchise in the world is not an NBA team, but the Harlem Globetrotters. Consistent with the modern story of Black basketball, the Harlem Globetrotters only enjoyed, get this, a few years of ownership by an African American. Manny Jackson sold 80% of the company to a growth fund in 2005 after 12 years of majority ownership by an African American. So Manny Jackson, I believe, is a former Globetrotter who eventually put the resources together and actually bought the Harlem Globetrotters. So there's a period of about 12 years where the Harlem Globetrotters were actually based out of here in Phoenix, Arizona, where we are.
Oh, wow.
And was majority owned by a Black person. And that's amazing because when you think about the Harlem Globetrotters, if you don't look underneath the hood, you could literally think that at some point they were owned by an all black owner. But the point with this statement is that for over 100 years, uh, Black Americans have been leveraging basketball as a means of social mobility, education, employment, wealth creation, as used as a vehicle to solidify communities. We see that even today with celebrity games, volunteer games, fundraising games, and also to participate in the free market system, right? Putting together a basketball product or service and then going out there and earning a living with that. We've been doing that for over 100 years. So much of what we see today in youth basketball and training, Kevin Garnett buying the Hoop It Up franchise, et cetera, we've been doing this for a long time. But my question is always, DJ Muztard, is with this level of historic participation, you would think that we, at the highest levels, we would have more ownership. Mm-hmm. That after 75 years, the NBA only has one team that is majority owned by a Black player, and he so happens to be considered the greatest player ever by some. So it only makes sense in this modern era that that would be the dude that would end up with a team. Right. You know. So hey, so let's look through this timeline, DJ, and I definitely want to get your thoughts as we go through this. Right. So think about this, man. 1904, the YMCA was opening up all Black YMCAs. Have you ever played at a YMCA before?
Actually, yes. So where I went to college at in North Dakota, one of my friends, he actually has a membership there, and that's where I played basketball at. So yeah, I've been there a couple of times actually. Yeah, and I grew up playing at a YMCA, and even today, YMCA's offer a basketball service. I think it's hard to imagine a YMCA without a basketball gym. I think that would be a fair assessment. Most they're not 24 hours, are they? I don't know. They may be in some cities. I'm not sure. You know, so we're looking all the way back in 1904. The beginning of Black basketball also is a result of the compassion and the mission purpose of the YMCA, because the YMCA went into Black communities and built facilities for people to have the services of the YMCA, but also the game was introduced. Then also I highlighted culture clubs. In addition to churches and settlement houses, created what they call Black Vibes. Obviously, we have the No Backboard Basketball League Social Club, which is evolved and will evolve into our own culture club, if you would, promoting, supporting our mission with the No Backboard Basketball League. We spoke about Bucky Lou being the first Black player to play in the all-white professional basketball league. But we also, around that same time, just a matter of sequence, you have a gentleman named Frank Wilson integrated into the Mohawk Valley League. And in that same year, the Eastern Professional League had Black players later from 1911 to 1917. So all throughout the early part of the 1900s, we're seeing Black men and women starting to participate in the game of basketball. You see a little integration in certain areas of the country. Other areas, you see all Black teams being formed. Have you ever heard about the concept of the Big Five prior to our conversations? No, I haven't. Okay, so Big Fives. There's actually our next episode, I'll bring it up. I believe it's big5.org. The Big Five era is this era that I believe it just around the Harlem Renaissance in the 1920s start jumping off, was at the height. But the Big Fives were, as it says here,
That's what they called all black teams that were formed and organized by these different black organizations to compete in the various competitions. What did you think about this right here? In 1909, you have a gentleman by the name of Cumberland Posey. So here we have a black man that owned not only a Big Five professional basketball team, but also owned a Negro League team. Think about that. 1909, you have this brother out there that owns 2 professional sports teams. What would that look like today, man? What do you think that look like today?
Well, I know definitely in that time to own just anything was difficult, and just the fact that he was able to own 2 separate teams, that just speaks to the kind of person he is. And if he still owns those teams today, he would definitely be probably the richest person in the world, to be honest. Just based off of, the value of where they would be today. I mean, who knows? I mean, who knows how many championships he would have won, things like that all matter. But yeah, that's
definitely
great that happened, and I wonder why he got rid of him.
Definitely. Well, market pressures. If you're able to hold on to a wealth creating asset for 100+ years and the market you're in is constantly raising, you definitely would have opportunity to be one of the most wealthiest people in the world. I think that the matter of the fact for him back then is that just market forces. One, you have the market forces between black community businesses in the black community, businesses owned by black people, serving black people, having to start to compete with larger businesses that primarily serve the white audience, but wanted a piece of the black talent pool as well as the black dollar. So when you had the Negro League starting to compete with Major League Baseball, and you start having the talent go where there was more money, right? Now you no longer have a product.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
That you no longer have a product that can compete in the marketplace because the market shifted, the game shifted, right? So in that shift, the Negro League just went out of business in due time. And then as we'll see here, and as we already know, eventually with the emergence of the NBA, same thing that happened in Negro League happened, and you start having the talent start to transition over into the NBA. So now, and here's the thing we overlook. Not only do we miss on the talent leaving, but we also now lose ownership in communities, and we lose that recycling of that dollar in the communities, and we lose those community events created for the community in the community. Those start going away as well, and those are all of the interactions between. Those are the various different interactions that an organization that is creating wealth, the impact it can have on the communities that they serve, right? So I think the closest thing we've seen to someone like Cumberland Posey is Magic Johnson. When Magic Johnson, did he own both Lakers? I think at one point Magic Johnson owned both Lakers and Dodgers. Not all of them, but he was a owner in each. And today we have several, I believe LeBron James owns a piece of a Premier League soccer club. I know.
I believe. I think him and Dwayne Wade own soccer teams.
Right. So we see partial ownership, right? We see partial ownership of these larger wealth creating assets, but the overall ownership of an entire team or what we're doing, an entire industry is unheard of, particularly nowadays.
Right.
So 1913, black fives become widely known for the innovative play and superior skill. So now we're 30 years after the invention of, we're 30 years after the invention of the game. The game has now come into the black communities, and we have these teams that have been formed. Now the creativity and the skills development starts to become apparent, and we start moving into where we're going to start seeing distinct styles of play between the black game of basketball and the white game of basketball. 1922, the Harlem Renaissance. What I love about the Harlem Renaissance is, have you ever heard of the Harlem Renaissance prior to our conversation?
Yeah.
So the Harlem Renaissance is known as the first professional, salary professional basketball team. This means these are guys that were on salary, and they were getting paid regardless if they played a game that week or not. They played a lot, but regardless, they were on salary. They had contracts, if you would. And in 1925, the American Basketball League refused to admit the Harlem Renaissance. Get this, that last sentence. As a show of support, the Renaissance, the original Celtics, refused to join the league. So imagine that. Think about that, DJ Muztard. You have a all-white team refuses to play in a basketball league because they won't allow an all-black team to join. And that's in 1925.
I think that's definitely a huge stance, and that probably was the single action that really gave us an opportunity, is what it seems like.
You know, and the thing interesting is the original Celtics, the Celtics in general, when you really, and I'm a Laker guy, you know, so I'm supposed to have a hate for the green and white. But I have a level of respect for the Celtics because when you look at the Boston Celtics history of social activism, at least the early part, you have this occasion here, you have the first black coaches, you have the first black starting five in the NBA. All of that comes through the Celtics, right? And so the Celtics have a good legacy and lineage. And to think the original Celtics are related to the Celtics we have today. So the Celtics may be one of the oldest basketball franchises in the world, actually.
Right.
The Savory Big Five. So did you know before the Harlem Globetrotters, they were known as the Savory Big Five, formed out of Illinois, the Chicago area, I believe.
No, I always know them as the Harlem Globetrotters.
Right. See, this is the beauty. This is the beauty of peeling back the veil and digging into the history. So now we have basketball invented in 1891. By 1904, YMCA is going into black communities, building out all black YMCAs where blacks are learning the game of basketball because the YMCA invented basketball and they promoted basketball. So the game gets introduced into black communities through the YMCAs. Then the game spreads to the culture clubs, the black churches, the black homesteads. And now we start seeing people, by the time we get to the 1920s, we're seeing professional leagues, we're seeing black organizations organize their own basketball teams and starting to compete. So by the time we get to the 1930s, approximately 40 years after the game of basketball is invented, pro basketball meant barnstorming. And what that looks like is that, take the Harlem Rens. The Harlem Rens was the first basketball team to get their own bus. they get their bus and they would be on the road for most of the year. And it was not uncommon for the Harlem Renaissance to play several hundred games a year. Right. We have guys in the NBA, you know, they play 83 plus playoffs.
Right.
I believe, and when we do a segment on our Harlem Renaissance specifically, we'll delve into it. But I know there are occasions where the Harlem Renaissance has played more than 200 games in a year. Right. And they're traveling around. Imagine that grit, that toughness. We have guys that having a hard time playing 83 games. They have world-class medical attention, cutting edge, and they travel in private planes.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
Yeah, a huge difference, huge difference. So the interesting thing is by the time we get to the 1930s, DJ, is the talent and value of these black barnstorming teams are recognized, but they still aren't let in. And so now you have the white teams taking advantage of the opportunity, whereas we'll come in and we'll pay you to play. So the black teams are earning their money, and we'll leverage you to draw the crowds in for the game that we're going to have next. So oftentimes they would participate in double hitters, where the black team would come in and play, and then the main event would be, and then sometimes the teams would play outside of their league game and play. So black teams were going around the country playing each other, and white teams making a living doing that. Going back to Henry Bucky Lou, right? So to your question earlier, Bucky was 18 in 1902 when he joined the New England team. Okay, so in 20 years. So that would take Bucky at least to 1922. But I'm thinking he probably started his own teams and started barnstorming closer to 1907, 1910 when he's done playing. And so it's possible in the 1930s when professional basketball meant barnstorming, right? That Bucky Lou's team is still barnstorming, and he's playing against some of these teams at some point, right? Because that's what professional basketball was. It was barnstorming and games and guys coming to town and playing the incumbent, or two people from two different towns coming into in the same town and playing. And then we have the development of the World Championship. So prior to the NBA Championship, we consider the World Championship, or the FIBA World Championship. We had the World Championships that was both black and white teams. I believe the first world champions were were all black teams. Eventually, there was a global tournament that was an integrated tournament. And then in the 1940s, you have the Harlem Globetrotters win the first and only world championship game, right? So we was talking earlier, DJ. You had asked a question around what was it about the Globetrotters and the kind of the clown prince of basketball persona?
Yeah, so I was wondering, when did they start winning all the time? Because I'm pretty sure every time I watch them, they're always winning. And I think I looked something up saying that they have like a really insane win streak. So I'm wondering, like, is that real or is that just like for entertainment?
Great question. What we see today is absolutely for entertainment. There was a period of time where the Globetrotters were a legitimate competitive team, as we see here. But as the transition from the BBA and NBL into the NBA, and then that process of talent from the black teams, the Black Five teams being pulled into the NBA as that became more frequent, and the best of the best were now playing in the NBA, and they wanted to play in the NBA. As that started to take place, for the Harlem Globetrotters to compete in the market and to find their place, because now you have a market where the best of the best are perceived to play in the NBA. You're not in the NBA. The landscape is shifting towards this NBA style of basketball, and the barnstorming era is coming to an end. How do you compete? And what the Harlem Globetrotters decided to do under their owner, Abe Serpenstein, I believe, is they decided to move away from presenting themselves as a truly competitive team and to move into more of an entertainment type of style, what we see today. So in that entertainment type of style, the Clown Princes of basketball, if you would, they win all their games because the team they compete against travels with them. That is, a team that travels with them is in on their routines, etc. Now, with that said, all Harlem Globetrotters have a solid basketball foundation when it comes to skills, right? You're not a Harlem Globetrotter without elite skills. Why they're not playing some other format or brand of basketball, I don't know, but I have known enough Harlem Globetrotters in my life to know that if you're a Harlem Globetrotter, you have basketball skills. You have basketball skills. So what we have here, and this starts to end. So by the time we get to 19, by the time we get to the 1940s, you're starting to see the transition take place, right? So the golden years for the Big Five era, the 20s and the 30s, peaking in the late 30s, early 40s with world championship games. Now, as we move into the 40s, we had the war, World War II. We had the impact of World War II taking place. Players are being pulled off the war. You have players that didn't get pulled off the war, now getting to play some basketball in some of the white leagues. Then as we move into 46, 49, we get the merger between the National Basketball League and the Basketball Association of America. It's interesting, during that period of time, you see that neither one of those leagues prior to the years prior to the merger signed a black player. There was no laws against it, no rules against it. They just didn't sign a black player. And so now you have the NBA being formed. And when the NBA is formed in 1949, there were no black players in the league. Right. So prior to that, in 1946, this is why I say the NBA could have been formed with a black team. The Harlem Renaissance petitioned the BBA to become part of the 10th team. And the BBA denied that petition. A couple of years later, they merged with the NBL, and we have the NBA. Now, what's interesting is, right out the gate, though the NBA was started without black players. Right out the gate, you have the owner of the New York Knicks saying, I'm going to take my team out the league if I can't sign a black player. Right. So, and ultimately, there was a vote, and it's 5-6 in favor of letting black players play in the NBA. And that fundamentally was an economic decision, not a moral or ethical decision. Right. Straight economics. And then that spring of 1950, you had Chuck Cooper and Earl Lloyd joining the NBA, with Chuck Cooper being drafted, and then Sweetwater Clifton became the first Black player actually to play in the game. And then in 1953, the first NBA television contract was for 13 games, $39,000, which is, imagine what the contracts are going for now. Billions.
Yeah, so I looked up what 39,000 was in 1953, and it's actually it's almost $400,000. So that's quite a bit of money.
Yes and no. I agree, it's quite a bit of money. And it'd be quite a bit of money for us to get a television contract for the No Backboard Basketball League for $400,000. I'll take it if you got it. We can do
right.
But in the big scheme of things, it may cost $400,000 just to produce certain college games.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So when it comes to money, money's relative. It's always been relative. And just remember, man, according to the Black Godfather, rest in peace, Clarence Avant, life is numbers. All right, that wraps up Basketball 55. Know your history. Hopefully, and the whole objective of our Basketball 55 episodes are to stimulate individuals to take an additional 10 to 15 minutes on purpose and intentful to do some research to learn a little bit more about the history of basketball before the NBA. And then ask yourself the question, why isn't there a greater presence of ownership and ownership at the NBA level, or even a whole nother brand out there that really caters to the needs, the athletic and community and the entertainment needs of the Black and brown communities? With that, MT Basketball 55 with DJ Muztard. We're out. We'll see you at our next episode, next segment. Hey, what's good, DJ? Check out this video. New rules. Makes you think it's about to be a no backboard basketball league video, right?
Right.
But it's not. The 3BA, man, this is a concept that how long ago was this? But Slam, they got a little love with Slam. So it's 3-on-3, full court. That was AC Green. So what do you think, man? Yeah, 3-on-3, full court.
I think it's a good concept. 3-on-3 is actually my favorite form of basketball, so I'm surprised that this isn't more popular than it already is.
Well, this isn't even in existence anymore.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I just wonder, what about the 3-on-3 just didn't appeal to the masses, that it's not even anymore.
It appealed to everybody. It appealed to everybody. What happened here is you have a gentleman who invented this concept, put most of his being into bringing it to the level you're seeing here, started to pull in investors, and everything got tied up in court when there was a disagreement.
Oh, wow.
So this great idea has been tied up in court for 20 plus years.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think it's a pretty good concept. And if you see the score up there, I mean, I'm sure it was a good time. I'm sure it was a game that was entertaining just because there was so many points, and I know that the NBA is especially geared towards offense. So yeah, it's a really good concept.
Well, what similarities do you see between that and what we're doing?
The court size is definitely similar, but I think this is more similar to traditional basketball, I think, than ours is. I definitely think 4-on-4 is a very different dynamic than 3-on-3, just because it makes the court that much smaller.
We played 3-on-3. The only reason we played 4-on-4 was to accommodate for the size of the court we were on and the conditioning of guys and the format we play.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So if that's the case, then so I do think this is more similar to traditional basketball, just because of the stoppage of play, where I think ours is more fast paced, and then obviously with the addition of the no backboard. So yeah, I do think it's similar in style, but as far as the rules, I think the rules are they have a bunch of wrinkles that make it different enough.
Yeah, this had a lot of legs. There are a lot of people who enjoyed playing 3BA. It was definitely a 1, 2, and 3 game for your ones, your twos, and your threes. Very, very fast paced, and very comparable and very similar to what we were doing. And I actually interviewed Kevin Laban, maybe 7 years ago in a series of interviews. And he shared his story with what transpired with getting that tied up. So at the end of the day, he developed business relationships where they came into an disagreement, which resulted in an entanglement that impeded his ability to keep moving forward with his vision. Right. So now a great idea is stuck because of legal wranglings, which I believe creates opportunity. Now, keep that in mind, because I think I shared this with you as well. So what's really different, DJ, between conceptually, you have this crew league on Revolt TV, right?
Yeah.
And they're playing a basketball game, 3-on-3. No, they're playing 4-on-4 too.
Yeah,
4-on-4. Game to 21, 1s and 2s.
I would say the difference is more of how the game is played, as far as like the scoring. Like, this is more like street ball, just because it's 1s and 2s versus a set time, and then you're just playing because of the time. But other than that, I'd say it's very similar. But again, like the rule set is what sets it apart.
So what's your thoughts on these alternative takes, though? What's your thoughts on that? And this format? I mean, look, this format looks pretty cool, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would definitely participate in this kind of format, because I would say most of my recreational basketball is get to 21. So I do like that style, just because you're always fighting to stay ahead. And I think with time, you kind of get a little lazy at times, just because you have a certain amount of time to come back. But if you're going to a score, like, there is no time to rest, and there's no time to be lazy, because you're going to a set score. So
you think the short court is something that really works? Their court is really short. Their court, you don't even have to run on the crew league's court.
I think, with that being said, it's really accommodating. So I mean, I guess the short courts get kind of old just because I mean, if every time you inbound the ball you take 3 steps and that's a good shot, I mean, I think that's kind of repetitive. But
So this is really full half court.
yeah, it's definitely more for
Right.
entertainment versus like
It's so
actual competition.
instead of taking the ball out, you just are turning around and attacking another basket. The same distance it will take for you to clear, right? And then turn and attack. You've already now in position to attack the opposite court.
Yeah. I would definitely say conditioning is not as much of a factor on this because you can pretty much walk when you're on defense just because, like you said, the court is so small.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's very many fast break opportunities. So
you like the concept of a small court? Like this, I mean, when you look at the aesthetics of it and then think about playing in that environment, what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I definitely think it'd be a fun environment. Like it's something to watch that's not always the NBA, but as far as proving like you're all the basketball player, not so much just because I feel like fast breaks and the full court is a part of the game versus this is more just like street ball, just in a more organized fashion.
Put respect on street ball's name though, DJ. Sounds like you're not respecting street ball.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm just saying.
There's no NBA without street ball.
Right, but I'm just saying the length of the court, I feel like definitely dictates the games. Like if you're a team that's not in shape, I mean that's definitely going to affect play. That's all I mean by that.
Word. I like this. I like this crew league. I think it sets a wonderful. I believe it sets a visual of what's possible for the No Backboard Basketball League in presenting its elite recreational product, and even to the point where you could pull in entertainers. Now, here's the deal. Like Tripp says, not playing without a backboard intimidates the skillless.
Yes, absolutely.
It intimidates the skillless. So there's a high probability that athletes and entertainers that are caught up in their ego and rep will be standoffish because of, as we know, if you don't got skills, you're going to shoot a lot of air balls, and that's embarrassing. Who wants to be embarrassed?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Who wants to be embarrassed? So I think this is the direction. You have this taking place. I like this. I like this format. I like this look. I like what they're doing. And I believe it provides a lot of validation for, what we're doing with our own No Backboard Basketball League and our efforts with that. So you never heard of this until I sent this over to you?
So this one, I believe I have heard of. I might have seen it once or twice, but no, I don't have like an extensive knowledge about it. No, I haven't watched a bunch of it, but maybe I've seen like one or two because I'm pretty sure I've seen Chris Brown play on here. So
now, do you think that's a result of do you recognize any entertainers out here that you get down with heavy?
I mean, Tyga, I guess. Tyga, Chris Brown, Jack Harlow. I mean, so yeah, so artists I listen to, yeah, they're definitely support this. So I'm sure that this is a legit thing.
Yeah, but see, I'm gonna tell you something for you. So when let me rephrase that, because you identify artists that you listen to their music, but you may not participate in their communities. Would that be a fair assessment? Because the question is, and this is good for us to understand just from like a marketing standpoint, right? You have artists out there that you listen to and you get down with, but you were unaware that they were doing this. So that's why I say you listen to the music, but are you following them on social media? Are you in their communities like that?
I know. Well, I've always known that Chris Brown, like some of these artists that are playing basketball, I've known that they play basketball. Like
Word,
White Iverson was playing.
word.
Yeah.
They're
So yeah.
actually
So
playing in this. Everyone
yeah.
knows Chris Brown hoops. We know he hoops, right? Because what we're effing also to figure out, right, is okay, who's watching this?
Yeah, I actually watched a lot of the YouTube basketball. I actually watched that more than like TV at all, to be honest. So like all of these, yes, all these people, I watched their hooping channels. So
Word. That's what's up. That's what's up. All right. So this, I believe, actually, this is from their second season. This is from season 2. They just started their third season.
nice.
They just started their third season. So I believe last week was their first set of games. So with that said, you might want to follow him I follow him on Twitter on our No Backboard Basketball League account to stay plugged in on what they're doing. You know, I recommend the same. I don't know all of these guys, but what it definitely appears like, what this appears like to me is there's a blend between an entertainer and an actual hoopers.
Yeah.
Right, which is the traditional street ball get down, right? You have entertainers or someone in the industry put a team together, have a couple of cats on it, but they're always going to have a couple of ringers, guys that actually can play the game as well. All right, DJ Muztard. Hey, man, this is the direction we're going in right here. Coming soon.
Yep,
This
super
is
excited
it.
for it.
This is it right here. Cool. Yeah, so I think it makes sense for us, DJ Muztard, to pay attention to what they have going on with the third season. And, you know, from time to time, we may pull them back up and talk about what we're seeing and draw some comparisons. But I like what I see with the Crew League. And again, I think it's definitely something that, you know, we can pull off ourselves. So with that, man, hey, and next time, take care of the family, take care of the baby. Appreciate your time on the social club.
Yes,
and we're out. Be blessed. Mark T, DJ Muztard, No Backboard Basketball League Social Club. Basketball 55. Take some time out, learn about your basketball history before the NBA. Be blessed.